Hello, and welcome to this limited series for business owners, leaders, and managers called Life Skills for Leaders, where we discuss the mental health and well-being issues that impact us at work. I'm Dr. Lillian. I'm a clinical psychologist and founder of Skills for Life courses and coaching. And I'm here today with my co-host, Daniel Hakim. He's the CEO and founder of CUB, the Club of United Business. And we want to support you to support yourself, your colleagues, and your business. So let's get started. Hello, this is episode 2 of Life Skills for Leaders, and today we're going to be talking about anxiety.
I love your voice.
Thank you,
It's the
Daniel.
best voice.
That's really good. I know a lot of people have said that to me, but you always hate the sound of your own voice, no matter what other people say. And that's the same for me.
Okay, so today we are talking about anxiety.
We are.
And
It's one of my favorite topics.
yeah, actually, I would say probably mine too, because anxiety is such a common just word thrown around. And I don't know if people throw it around for the right reasons. You know, I feel like kind of these days, anxiety is just everything. Yeah,
Yes.
everyone's got anxiety. Yeah,
Yes.
At some point, no one had anxiety. Now everyone's got it, and so it's kind of like, you know, I think it'd be cool for myself and the listeners to learn. I mean, how do you describe anxiety? What is it?
Yeah, and I guess the truth is that everyone does have anxiety.
Okay, there you go.
Because anxiety is the body's natural response to threats in our environment. So it's actually there to protect us and to keep us safe from harm, and that is by fighting or fleeing or freezing. That's what our body is gearing us up to do. So that fight or flight response that you've probably heard about. So we all have that natural physiological response within us.
So anxiety is like a stress. It's like for example, if I was boxing, and you're in a fight, and you know it's your first fight, and you go into the stress where your heart's going, and you can feel this. You can feel stressed. You know when your blood feels stressed, like there's something in your blood that's making you feel like.
Sometimes people use the words stress and anxiety interchangeably, and that I think that's what you're doing. But actually, the way that psychologists would distinguish between the two is that stress is when we are overwhelmed by the demands on us, when we have too many demands on us in the environment, whereas anxiety is that physiological response to threat. So when you're going into the boxing ring, that's anxiety.
Okay, and why is anxiety caused? So why would something simple trigger an anxiety? So if I'm not in threat or in danger, why would my body tell me I am?
Yeah, well, there's so many reasons why. That's like quite a loaded question, and that is when anxiety becomes an issue. It's when it fires when there isn't an actual threat in the environment. I suppose some of that has to do with genetics and biology. So some people are just more prone to feeling anxious or having kind of strong emotions in general. Some of it's learned. So how we grow up, how we've seen other people manage challenging situations, what we found like our caregivers were afraid of, we might learn to be afraid of those things as well. Like, for instance, phobias are often transferred from parent to child. You know, if a parent's really scared of spiders, then it's highly likely that children are going to be scared of spiders as well. So yeah, nurture, nature, they're both kind of responsible. And also, did you learn the skills to deal with general discomfort and stress and anxiety? So yeah, there are a lot of reasons why sometimes anxiety fires when it actually doesn't need to fire, or it's at an intensity that it doesn't need to be.
And when would you say that it's like a problem? Like, when is so as a business owner, there's a bunch of shit that I could be anxious about.
Mm-hmm.
But and I feel anxiety, well, not that much anymore, but I used to feel anxiety towards things that right now I would feel zero. Wouldn't even notice it. When is the point where you'd say that's a problem? Like this anxiety it's too much anxiety, because it's very hard to judge yourself. You know, you
Yeah.
yourself, you're feeling it. You're thinking, God, well, if I'm feeling it, it must be real. Like that's how scary this is. And that's probably what your brain's telling you. Like if they don't reply to this email,
Right.
or like, oh my God, I've lost my business. Reality is probably not true, but your brain is telling you that. So it is hard to distinguish the point of, okay, well, I'm wrong. My brain is actually wrong right now.
Yeah, sometimes it can be hard to distinguish, and that's when it's really important to talk to someone about it. A lot of the time, when we are feeling anxious about things that aren't particularly threatening, we actually are aware that it's an irrational fear, or not a realistic fear. A lot of times we are able to tell that, but we just aren't using the effective skills to deal with it. So, in terms of like when is anxiety functional and when is it dysfunctional? So, anxiety is functioning well when it is actually signaling a real threat in the environment, so something that's actually unsafe or that can cause you harm. When it helps us prepare our body to do what it's supposed to do, which is fight or flee, sometimes freeze, and also when it leads to effective actions to protect ourselves. So even though our body might be geared up to fight or flee or freeze, it might not actually do that. But it is dysfunctional if it is, say, causing an over the top reaction. So, like, it's too severe or intense for the situation that we're in. If it's occurring really frequently, again, if it's lasting too long, like, yeah, you're in a situation, you feel super, super anxious, and then that sense of anxiety just doesn't dissipate, it just sticks with you. And also, when it leads to unhelpful or harmful behaviors to cope, right? So sometimes we cope in ways that are helpful, and sometimes we cope in ways that are unhelpful. So the most unhelpful ways are things that are associated with avoidance, usually. And that might be just not like isolating yourself and not going to things, or it could be avoidance through substance use. Both of those are really common ways that people avoid things. So that's when anxiety is becoming a problem.
When I would, like, if I was to think about my anxieties, or when I would classify myself as anxious, it's typically when, like, the easiest sign for me, and I'm just curious if this, curious on your thoughts, and others probably may be the same, but it's when I can't stop thinking about something,
Hmm.
like focused on it. Like I just can't get my brain off it, and just thinking about it. Whatever it is, I'm worried about it. I'm scared to lose it. And I just can't stop thinking about it. And
Yes.
and is that anxiety, or is that something
Yes,
else?
that is definitely related to anxiety. That it can be related to other things too, like depression. When you ruminate, when you overthink, when you overanalyze, it often can get in the way of sleep, and that's why anxiety and insomnia are highly correlated and associated with each other. So yes, that is one of the racing thoughts. It definitely affects our thinking.
Which makes sense, because if it is your um, um, fight or flight, your body's, I guess, kicking in gear for fight or flight. If a lion's coming to kill me, I'm going to be focused on the lion.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if it's something that you shouldn't be that anxious about, whether it be like someone replying to your email, you shouldn't be focused on the email. That's probably why you're focused on the email, no? Because your fight or flight's like, oh my God, I've got to focus on this thing because this is where the danger is. And so you just keep thinking
Yes.
about it. You keep thinking about it.
Yeah, sometimes people have these beliefs about thoughts themselves that cause anxiety to get worse or be maintained. So sometimes people think that worrying actually is helping them in some way. Like if I worry about something enough, I'll prevent it from happening. Sometimes we place too much power in what we're thinking about. So we might attach ourselves to particular thoughts that we have and then attach meaning to it. And then we feel like we need to think about it and keep thinking about it. And somehow thinking about it over and over is going to lead to something when it usually doesn't. It doesn't lead to problem solving.
And if you're someone, so if I start suffering from what I believe is an unhealthy amount of anxiety, whether it be the time period of which I'm feeling it, whether it be the level of anxiety I'm feeling towards what could be a relatively small thing to be, like a small threat, let's call it.
Mhm, mhm.
How is it possible? Like, I remember when I was younger, I went through a stage where I was suffering very much for a long, long period of time, maybe 2 years. I felt like I was suffering from like anxiety kind of feeling where I was just anxious about everything. Not like, I thought I was crazy,
Mhm.
and I remember thinking like, how do I get out of that? Like, like, how do I? I actually thought my brain was broken.
What was going on? Like, what gave you that indication? Was it just
I just didn't.
overthinking, or were there other
I don't know,
things?
overthinking. I just didn't feel like myself.
Mhm.
I don't know. I was actually broken. I
Mhm.
actually went to a therapist. It's the only time I actually went to a therapist in my life. I said to the guy, I went to two. The first guy, I thought he was a moron, so I'm not going back to you. I actually said that to him. I was like, I'm smarter than you. And then I went to a second one,
Fair enough.
and he actually said something really smart. He said, I literally thought I was going crazy.
Mhm.
He said, and the reason I'm telling you the story is because the question coming after it's relevant, but he actually said, well, the fact that you think you're going crazy is probably a sign that you're not, because people that are actually going crazy don't think they're going crazy. I said, oh, thanks, man. And so my question was, and he just saying that to me,
Yeah.
it wasn't the end of it, but it was the start of the end.
Yeah.
And so, but I was lost. I was trapped. I couldn't get out of this situation.
Mhm.
And so my question was, how can you get out of your anxiety? How do you fix it?
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing is to have some awareness that something is going on, right? And then the second thing, which is what your therapist did for you, was to help you accept that it's happening and that it's okay, right? And that you can do something about it. So there are lots of strategies to deal with anxiety. I mean, one of the main ones and one of the easiest ones to implement like right away are things that you can do to relax your body. Because if you can relax your body, your mind can follow. So things like relaxation techniques like progressive muscle relaxation. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. So it's like a 20-minute exercise where you just lie down or sit down and it gets you to tense and then relax your muscles from head to toe or toe to head, right? And that process is called progressive muscle relaxation. It takes about 20 minutes to go through the whole body. And it is one of the most effective evidence based strategies to produce the relaxation response in your body. And the idea is that you can't be tense and relaxed at the same time.
Time.
So if you are relaxed, you're releasing that kind of anxiety, and then that will help you release the anxiety in your mind as well.
So that's more of a, I'm feeling anxious right now. I need a break. You can do that. Actually, someone told me once to do, it was the opposite though. It was feet to head, but it was, instead of tensing and whatever, it was breathing in
Mm-hmm.
to those muscle areas
Yeah.
and breathing out and relaxing, like your feet are completely
Yes,
relaxed, and working your way up your body.
It's the same idea, and you can do it head to toe or the other way around. It doesn't really make a difference. That's called autogenic relaxation exercise. It's related.
Mhm.
So if some people like they have physical issues and pain in their body and they can't tense and relax their muscles because it causes them pain. So something like that where you're just focusing on that part of your body and then releasing tension without having to tense it to start with can be a really good one.
But how
to
do you
do.
get out of the cycle? That's I guess what you'd call a temporary escape. How do you actually how do you get rid of anxiety?
Okay, so the point is not ever to get rid of anxiety because anxiety is not a bad thing and we actually need it to stay alive. So that's the first thing. The first thing is to accept that a certain amount of anxiety will exist and it needs to exist within your life. So not to view any anxiety symptoms as bad and wrong and something that you need to get rid of. So probably the main thing in terms of getting out of that unhealthy cycle of anxiety is acceptance. You need to accept a certain amount in your life, and you need to acknowledge that the positive functions that anxiety can have in your life. Anxiety isn't bad, just like any other forms of distress. I mean, this is how people tend to think. They tend to think in a black and white way or an all or nothing way, like sadness is bad, guilt is bad, anger is bad, anxiety is bad, anything distressing or uncomfortable is bad, but it's not. We actually have these experiences and emotions for a reason. They all serve a function. And if you can understand what that function is, then you'll be more accepting towards it and you'll actually be able to do something effective about it. So like all emotions serve three main functions. So one is to communicate something to you, right? Anxiety is communicating something to you. It's saying, I feel like I'm being threatened in some way. It's also it communicates to other people, right? So you might, if you're feeling a certain way and you're starting to, show physical signs of being anxious or you're expressing it, you're telling others, I'm feeling threatened. I might need support and help. And the third thing that all emotions, including anxiety, does is it helps motivate you to action, right? So
I'm a big believer in that.
right.
Yeah. That's in fact, with my uneducated brain, that's how I would normally communicate emotions to people. Emotions are there for a reason. They're there for you to take action.
Right.
They
That's
force you into action.
100% one of the main functions of all emotions.
Yeah, like even if you're depressed, right? You're depressed because your body's saying something's wrong. You need to change something to get rid of that. It almost forces you into a corner that it's kind of like backing a dog up into a corner. It's going to come out and attack, fight. It's like depression forces you into a thing where it's like something's wrong. I'm feeling this way. I need to stop feeling this way. I need to take some action. Now, obviously, it can be a negative action,
yes.
but it could also be positive.
That's right. So that's and the difference between functional and dysfunctional, right? So if you have experiencing anxiety and it's motivating you to take action that's going to help you, then great. It's doing what it's supposed to do. If it's taking you in a direction of actually doing yourself harm or doing something really unhelpful or ineffective, then you need to get some support and help to learn how to deal with it more effectively.
I actually think that the best thing that that this conversation has already helped me with, which I did not know, which is the understanding of why anxiety exists, which is that it basically is your body's reaction to threats. It's your fight or flight. And by understanding that, right, that really a threat should be death. Like that's like or serious harm, or
right.
Like, that's where most threats are. Like when we evolved, if another group of humans came to kill us all, like that's a serious threat.
Mm-hmm.
But because by understanding that, you're then able to understand. Well, wait a second, this situation is not a situation of where justifies this level of anxiety. I can't stop thinking about this right now, but this is not going to kill me. This might be annoying.
Yeah.
So, okay, justify a little anxiety.
Right.
But it shouldn't be taking over my life. And so by understanding that, it almost gives you a meter of a way to identify your own anxiety, or a way to identify whether or not you're overreacting your anxieties towards a situation.
Yeah, it's a really good way of assessing, whether what your urge is going to be helpful or not. Because that motivation to action comes in an urge, right? We have this feeling of like we need to run or we need to, and usually it is run. Almost always when people feel anxiety, they want to flee, which is avoidance, right? So sometimes that is what you want. If you're in a dangerous situation, that's exactly what you want to be doing. But most of us aren't experiencing dangerous situations all the time. We're just experiencing discomfort or fear of, something might be fear of judgment, embarrassment, something along those lines. And avoidance is actually not helpful in those situations because the more that you avoid those situations, the bigger your anxiety gets about those situations, which makes it harder and harder to actually ever challenge yourself to face those situations.
So true. I fully agree. And well, obviously I agree because you're correct, but I understand, I should be saying. But yeah, what I like about it is understanding the cause and the reason for anxiety allows you not to be anxious because you're then able to say, okay, well, no, this doesn't make sense. Like I shouldn't be feeling this. Therefore, you're able to overcome kind of you're able to overcome it because you understand it better.
Yeah.
But do you think, and this is quite a broad issue, but the way we're currently living life probably triggers more mental health issues, like anxiety, isn't using anxiety now.
Yeah.
than we did potentially than we did in the past. Right now, your life's not in danger every day.
Well, I mean, if we think about the pandemic over the last year and a half, I think a lot of people actually do think their life is in danger. And not only to do with
That could,
that particular thing, but, even the panacea to that, the vaccines, for instance, like people think that they're in danger doing what could help them not get a virus. But yeah,
but again,
even
but
before the
again,
pandemic,
fact,
though, anxiety was rising.
yes, but
Yeah.
using the pandemic.
Yeah.
We are anxious about the pandemic, or people that are worried about the pandemic for their health. They're worried because they know about it. Because in the modern world, the information travels so fast. And really, if no one said anything, you would have no worries. You wouldn't know anything and nothing probably would happen to you either. The odds are very low that it would. So again, in modern day, all these, even small threats to most people are blown out of proportion. I'm not using the pandemic
No,
as
I
an
know.
exact example.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that all these things are that you're shown everything.
Yes.
Everything
Oh,
can kill
yeah,
you.
for
Potatoes
sure. Yeah.
I can't watch the news, because if I watch the news every day, there's something killed. The potatoes kill me in Australia. Then there's this chicken disease, and then there's this now bats, and there's just like, okay, guys, I get it. I can die. I understand that, but really, and that could be causing more. Like, just the overload of information is probably causing heightened anxiety, because everyone's like, oh, everything could kill me. Like the fact that I know coconuts kill 150 people a year. I could be, which is true actually. Yeah, I could be scared of coconuts now. It's like everything could kill me. But really, if no one just fucking said about it, if no one said anything about it,
You wouldn't
or if
know
you
to
were
be
just able
scared
to
of it.
live life,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be freaking out about everything.
Yeah, I think that, look, definitely that's part of it. The more information we have, and a lot of the information that we get is on the problematic side, right?
Well,
It's not the positive stuff that's happening in life. We're hearing about all the terrible things that are happening in life.
You get it from the media, who need to tell you something's going to kill you, so that they can have their ratings go up. So you're fed all this negative stuff.
Yeah, you are. Well, you're not fed a balance of information. So you're fed true, potentially factual things that are negative, but you're not getting the balance of all the great things that are happening in life. So it skews your perception of how threatening the world is, how threatening other people are, and whether you're under threat. And definitely that can cause more anxiety. The other thing is just social media in general, because we're already, as humans, judgmental by nature. So social media just gave everybody a chance to spew that all over everybody. And if you don't have a strong sense of who you are, it can really impact how you feel. And a lot of young people, the anxiety rates are rising quite a lot for young people. And it's because they are the ones that have been using social media the longest from the youngest age, and they haven't developed their identity yet. So they're much more suggestible and influenced by the judgments of others. And that's really problematic. And, a lot of mental health problems, including anxiety disorders, begin when we're young. So it is something that's really important to understand, well, what are you using social media for? There are positive, uses for it. So I'm not saying we shouldn't be using it at all, but be aware of what you're using it for, and is it serving you? Is it serving a positive function in your life?
And just to bring it to relating to business owners, because they're the people I love. It's the same concept. Like, one of the best advice that I ever got given, was from a member, and he learnt it at, I can't remember where from, but it was that when you're measuring your business, don't measure it with the outside voices coming in. Measure your actual results. So, like when the pandemic happened, or when the US elections happened, or when an Australian election happens, or when all these economic and political and external factors, because they're always happening, if I watch the news, literally never watch the news. I don't believe any of it whatsoever, and I don't think anyone else should. But the other reason is that it just freaks you out. There's all these things that could affect your business plans. You've got these plans, you've got a playing field, and all of a sudden they're throwing, all these potential issues that could cause your business to to stumble. So
Yeah.
you're, as a business owner, you're almost saying, hey, I just want to play on this table, on this flat surface. I want to know the table's stable and I want to know the rules of the table. If there are
Yes.
mountains on this table, I know where they are. Whereas when you watch the news, it's like it's not a table anymore. It's like a table that has earthquakes going through it 24/7, earthquakes, and then meteors shooting down on it, and there's even little soldiers running around with machine guns. And if you look at all the world, if you look at the world, there's all these things that could kill your business, and it causes you to have anxiety. It's like, oh no, I'm freaking out. My business is
Yeah.
gonna die. Whereas really, so where I'm getting is potentially one of the best ways to conquer anxiety to do with business maybe is to actually just judge your business for your business, is to actually not look at, is to not absorb too much of that information, take it in. It's just
Yeah.
to judge your business. What is the performance? What is actually happening? Oh, something's slipping.
Yeah.
What could that reason be then, and how can we resolve that? And just focusing solely on yourself and your business, and that could be a way to. I mean, that's what I do to limit freaking out about everything that goes on in the world.
Yeah, I think that it comes down to what information is accurate and credible and factual, what's relevant to your business and what isn't, and what are things that you can control and what are things that you can't control.
That's the question.
Yeah. Yeah. And focusing on the things that you can control and accepting some, that ultimately that's what you have to do. You have to accept the things that you can't.
Yeah.
Right. And cope with it the best way that you can.
Yeah, that's the smart way of saying what I said. I guess that's exactly what I meant. That's exactly what I meant.
Yeah.
And I find that's the best way for me to deal with like economic anxieties or business anxieties.
Yeah. And that's often the best way of thinking about your own sense of well being, mental health, including anxiety or any other problems, is like, what do I need to accept? Right? We do need to accept that we're going to feel distress sometimes. We're going to need to accept that we're going to face challenges in life that aren't going to be great and might be quite painful. What can we change? What are things that are under our control? What can we do? We can get support. We can learn new things. We can educate ourselves in different ways. And being able to know the difference between those two things is really critical. And then moving forward.
It's kind of like as a business owner, you know that some weeks are not the best weeks for sales. Some months are not the best months. But overall, if you look at your year, it averages out to be your kind of average, let's say, revenue number, and that's a satisfactory revenue number. You're happy with that. So you have to kind of judge. You can't, some days are bad, some weeks are bad, some weeks are good. And it's kind of the average of your year of which dictates your results. So if it was and you can relate to anxiety. It's like,
it's a great metaphor, actually, because there are the ups and downs of life, right? And our feelings and our moods fluctuate from day to day, week to week, month to month. But if you have an overall sense of contentment and well-being, it's okay.
And how can how could a business owner catch anxiety in a team member and in a staff member and potentially create an environment of which is an anxiety haven?
Yeah, well, if we think about how anxiety affects us, so it makes us want to fight, flee, or freeze. So how does that show up in a workplace? So, and look, most of the time it is flee. So most of the time it's avoidance behavior. So are your team members or employees displaying any of those avoidance behaviors? Are they not speaking up in meetings? Are they not showing up? Are they finding it difficult to make decisions? Are they procrastinating? Or conversely, are they over preparing? So they're missing deadlines because they're so worried about it being perfect that they're not ready when it needs to be ready. Are they isolating themselves from workplace functions or social functions related to work? And also, it can manifest physically, and you can sometimes see it like behaviorally if people like look restless or they're pacing or they're, sweating or, those sorts of physical signs can really show you that someone might be having problems with anxiety. Also, if people are talking about trouble sleeping, because anxiety is one of the main culprits to insomnia and sleeping problems. And you can't stop the racing thoughts or stop ruminating, and it keeps you up at night. So if you notice people are really tired or they're just saying, like I've had trouble sleeping, that can be a sign that anxiety's a problem.
So for myself, because I often wake up with my brain racing, my thoughts racing, sorry, is that anxiety?
Yeah, most likely.
Okay.
Most likely. It could be other things, but it sounds like anxiety, yes.
Okay.
Anxiety,
that's
well,
important
yeah.
for people to know because,
Yeah.
I mean, how many business owners do you hear saying, "Oh, I wake up in the middle of the night and, I can't stop thinking," or I
Yeah.
couldn't go to sleep because so that is anxiety, and perhaps a way to kind of get around that is to look, okay, what is the actual level of threat of whatever the thing I'm thinking about is, or what is the actual level of loss, and what are the things that are within my control currently that I can do to, I guess, protect myself or to overcome this.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's funny because when we are in bed and it's quiet, and like that's sometimes the time where our brain's like, let's kick into gear and start thinking about everything because all of a sudden it's available to think through things. But it's not the best time. So there are strategies to learn how to kind of organize yourself so that you are processing those worries at a time where it's going to be the most effective to process those worries, because in the middle of the night is not the best time to go into problem solving mode.
Yeah, but I think that it happens because during the day you're back to back, you're thinking about all these things, you're thinking about all these problems and all these other your staff and your people and the strategies, and
Yeah.
you haven't got time to think about the problems. And then when you get home, it's like, oh, here they come. All these little things I missed during the day or something I forgot to do,
Yes.
and they come hitting you like lasers.
Yeah, it's exactly like, it's almost like you have to schedule in the time to have that meeting with yourself, right? And your agenda are your worries. I have this strategy. It's called Contain Your Brain. And if people want to get a copy, they can just go to my website, drlilliannejad.com.
Lillian
Lillian
Nejad
at drlilliannejad.com.
DR.
Doctor, yeah, DR.
Just making sure.
Thank you.
Doctor.
Just to do that all over again. www.drlilliannejad.com. There's a section called Free Stuff where you can go grab a Contain Your Brain handbook, and it just describes how you can set boundaries for your worries so that you're actually doing it on your own terms, on your own time, when it actually is the most productive time to do it. And there are also, we talked about progressive muscle relaxation earlier. There's a progressive muscle relaxation exercise on the site as well that you can download and try and see if it's something that you like. There are lots of strategies to help you unwind and to help contain your brain so that you're not waking up in the middle of the night with racing thoughts.
And one of your strategies on your website is kind of having that time wherever you place in the day, where you kind of lie down and you just think about what am I worried about at the moment? What are things I forgot? Rather than doing it at home in bed, do it during the day or something. Or it could even be at home, but it's
it could be at home, but not in your bedroom though.
Yeah, no, there's a time.
And make that time.
Yeah,
because
so there's a time and a place to worry, ladies and gentlemen.
That's exactly right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if someone wants a bit more of an extensive resource, they're suffering from anxiety, quite a lot of anxiety at the moment. Is there, I guess, a more extensive resource that they could use on your website?
Well, if you're looking for a self-help option, I have a course called Coping with Anxiety in Challenging Times, which really covers all of the evidence-based skills and strategies to help people with anxiety or really any form of distress that they're feeling, particularly in challenging times or when they're under stress or pressure. And it goes through a lot of what we talked about today, but in a lot more detail. And that's a 10-session course that you can find on drlilliannejad.com.
And if I'm beyond self-help?
Yes. Then the best thing to do is to see your GP. And what your GP can do is they can refer you to a psychologist or clinical psychologist to help you with your anxiety. Anxiety is one of the most treatable conditions. So and the earlier the better. So if you've got, moderate to severe anxiety, or it's lasted for a long time, and whatever you're doing, if you feel like isn't working, or you're avoiding things all the time, go see your GP. They'll create a mental health plan for you so you can get Medicare rebates, and they'll refer you to a psychologist. And generally, sessions are between 8 and 12 to treat most anxiety
So
disorders,
8 to 12 sessions.
depending on the severity. So, for some people it's 3 or 4, for some people it's 20. It really just depends on you and your background and your history and
But
the
you can do that.
complexity
So
of it.
if I wanted you to be my clinical psychologist, you can do that.
I mean, I am capable of doing that. Yes. I do have a very limited practice. So what I do is, if I don't have room, then I will refer you to someone who does,
You're like Cub, you have a wait list.
I do. That's right. Look, at the moment, a lot of people have wait lists. So again, I would encourage people to seek help as early as possible, because you actually might be waiting for a few weeks before you can see someone.
Okay.
So just put yourself on a few lists and see someone as early as possible. Like I said, anxiety disorders are very treatable conditions.
But if people do want to contact you, they can do it on the website.
They absolutely can. There's lots of contact points on the website. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right,
And
awesome.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
For more information or to contact me to schedule a time to chat, just go to drlilliannejad.com. That's drlilliannejad.com. I look forward to it.